Hi everyone, welcome to Structured Mess, a podcast series where we explore the messy reality of building and scaling marketing. Today's conversation is about operating in 0 to 1 environments, and we are going to talk about what truly matters when you're responsible for creating traction from scratch and how to avoid wasted efforts and spend in that journey. My guest today is Mita Mandavkar, someone who has spent 11 years inside 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 journeys, helping early and growth stage startups find their real signals of growth. We are going to unpack a lot today. We are going to talk about how she thinks about operational readiness, how she thinks about product market fit, channel fit, and realities of owning revenue before the system is fully built. So, Mita, welcome to the podcast. And before we dive in, I'd really love for you to talk a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much for that lovely intro, Mansi. I don't know what more I should be introducing myself as. You've so nicely covered it. But let me firstly start by thanking you for inviting on the show and also for very kindly and graciously accommodating the reschedule.
Yeah,
It means a
absolutely.
lot.
Thank you.
As for the work that I do, as Mansi put it, I've been in marketing for 11 years, spent most of it on B2B side of things. I think an interesting thing about my career or my marketing journey has been I started off with very big MNC sort of companies. Uh, Actually, my introduction in marketing started with a very proper B2B setup, which I found incredibly boring at that point of time.
Right.
Something which I kind of wonder about now, like how maybe it was a bit short sighted, but
Yeah.
when I kind of moved into like more on B2C side of things, learned like a whole bunch of things, but then I kind of found my sweet spot to be in B2B. I think there is a
Right.
lot of misconception around how boring B2B can be, and I also blame uh, my horrible textbooks during MBA for that. They never painted a good picture of B2B marketing.
Right.
And I think over the years, I've progressively like found my sweet spot to be uh, early stage startups after having worked across multiple setups and also like very specifically 0 to 1, 1 to 10 journeys. Uh, I think they give you a lot of freedom and scope to experiment, learn, fail, iterate fast, and you never
Right.
have like a dull day. I think as a marketer, it's rare to have a dull day, but
Yeah.
early stage startups, it's just fun. And I think maybe we are all a bit of adrenaline junkies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting us know and giving such a wonderful, information about your background. Let's just dive directly into the question. I think my first, and like I think everyone expects this, my first question to you is that when you enter a brand new 0 to 1 project, what are the first couple of days like, and how do they shape everything that like that follows after that? Like, what are you actually looking to understand, whether it is about company operationally or it is about their marketing function? What do you look at first?
For me, the first thing which I always start off with a new engagement, or even in my new roles when I was in a full time position, was doing like a walking tour. And I think
Okay.
it's so severely underrated. A lot of companies have their own onboarding processes, but I
Hmm.
believe the best one you can have is the one you design for yourself.
Right.
Uh, because I think you have like certain understanding of the role, the
Hmm.
mandate that you are supposed to take care of, and a walking tour is what you do when you go and you speak with everyone within that company that you're going to be working with.
Correct.
So it would product, it would be sales, it would be the founders. So say for instance, if you are working more closely with the sale with maybe the CEO and the founder, maybe you go and you also have a chat with the COO.
Correct.
You also go and you have a chat with the team if there is like a CS team in place. Basically, you go and you have a very proper deep dive sort of a conversation with all these stakeholders. Uh, and what you do in those conversations is just go and have a very deep proper understanding of what is it that they work on, what do their priorities look like. So exactly what are they working on currently, what are they delivering currently, what are their goals at the moment, what do their priorities look like 6 months down the line. And you use all this information and you reconcile it with your mandate and the information that has been shared with you. This will give you a good start into understanding like the operational readiness of that company and where your priorities also should be, which
Correct.
may or may not even match what you were told before you even signed on that particular role, because
Correct.
that might happen. To dig a little deeper into this, I think the detailed conversations is like one way to go. uh,
Hmm.
I think one other thing that you should obviously be picking up is, I think, let me take one step back and say that when you work in marketing or when you're a part of GTM team, it's more of a connective tissue. Like you're not
Correct.
just going to be working in isolation. You're
Hmm.
going to be working with all these different stakeholders, which is why it makes it all the more important that you get information and you build that context very early on. You would see like a lot of people. I think this normally happens a little earlier in career. There is a lot of siloed thinking that,
Yeah.
okay, I've been given this work, I'm just going to stick to it. Like, why should I bother knowing or understanding what others do? I'm not going
Correct.
to say everyone, but there are a
Hmm.
lot of folks who have that kind of an understanding. But I think you need to really understand, for a marketer, for a GTM professional to really succeed, you need to have a very good understanding of what's bothering these other disciplines as well. And you would
Correct.
also note these are all customer facing disciplines, which
Yeah.
means they're going to give you insights, which means the work that you do is going to be connected. One area falls, it's going to impact you as well. So which
Correct.
means it's very important that you understand where everyone is at
Yeah.
currently at the moment,
Yeah.
so that you get very good picture of what you're dealing with.
Hmm.
And also you get to understand which pieces in your mandate maybe you can move with full speed. Okay,
Right.
say for, you also get a sense of understanding and delivering a little faster. Say for
Right.
instance, if your sales team is basically just one sales head and no
Hmm.
one else, then one of the first things you should be picking up is making sure that person has enough sales enablement material to work with during their calls and during the entire process. That's one
Right.
thing that you could do to support them and
Yeah.
also kind of move the needle in a right direction. Versus if you have a sales team which has maybe like 5 6 folks, maybe a mix of SDRs, maybe a mix of area managers and things like that, the approach will have to look very different then.
Different. Yeah.
So I think the first thing that you need to have is, which is why it's very important to do like a walking tour and
Hmm.
not like a very surface level hello, hi, how are you doing, I joined in marketing, we'll be working together kind of a thing, but really sit down and have like a very proper thorough conversation with them. And it also helps you to build trust, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be that person who just comes in and who says marketing is going to do this, marketing is going to do that. You've taken time,
Yeah.
you've understood problems, you have kind of gotten down in trenches with them to some extent.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you're kind of giving gyan from an ivory tower.
Yeah.
It kind of grounds things into reality. So I think that's the first thing that really matters. And more importantly, in a very selfish goal out here, is you also get to understand that in your mandate and in your own roadmap how these things will impact you, so
Right.
that your plan is tighter. I
Right.
think the next thing that I also try to do is, I ask for any sort of documentation or collaterals that the teams have, and it
Hmm.
could be anything. Okay? Like sales deck and investor decks are like a no-brainer, but also like product roadmaps, maybe
Yeah.
one pagers that they have, then case studies, maybe old email campaigns. And I think there is so much you can learn about that company and the way in which they think about their customers, their ICPs, and their pain points when you go through these materials.
Yeah.
It's really underrated. I think I would also like to share like an example here. One of the
Absolutely.
clients that I worked with, uh, they when I kind of started the engagement and I was in that first 48 hours, 1 week, I kind of asked them like, what are the things that you've tried to do? And they told me like, we've tried email and it does not land. uh, we
Right.
tried doing it, but nothing kind of works for us. So we figured we are not just going to do this anymore. I was like, okay, but I would love to take a look at it. And when I look at the emails, when I read the copies for the emails, every single email was just about them. We do
Right.
this, we do that. Here's our platform, here's our this feature, here's our that feature. Nothing about the customers, their
Yeah.
pain points, what is it that we can change for them, or how their life is going to get better. It
Better.
was
Yeah.
just about me. So
Right.
obviously, unsurprisingly, nothing was landing.
Worked.
Uh,
Yeah.
so then the whole idea there was, okay, this is what is happening, then we need to change the approach. So we
Yeah.
made some tweaks when we saw that, okay, now it's working better. So which is why the point here is documentation will give you a very good understanding of where the company is in terms of, the way in which the clarity on messaging that they have towards their ICP, and also how well do they understand and articulate for their customers.
Right.
And there are a lot of startups out there who don't probably have like a marketing team, but still they're extremely clear on it. So it
Right.
doesn't always necessarily mean that because there is no marketer on the team, which is why things are kind of broken. No, it doesn't really translate that way, but you get that kind of an insight through the documentation.
Yeah.
I think one other thing which you also discover during while you're doing this entire thing, walking tour, documentation. Uh, I think you notice the gaps, like you said, the operational readiness, the gaps. I think one thing which I kind of noticed in my prior experiences also was the mandate was, we are doing like a beta test of the platform, and we want to acquire users so that we can get feedback, this that we're ready to go, let's launch this that.
Yeah.
Then when I ask for okay, let me go try out the platform as a user myself, glaring gaps. A lot
Right.
of it's very half baked. Like features are not kind of making sense. UI is incomplete. I don't know where do I go
Yeah.
next.
Next.
It's
Yeah.
very intuitive. A whole bunch of things which require fixing and which require deeper reflection before you roll it out even to your beta users.
Yeah.
So, and that's like a huge discrepancy, right? If your
Right.
mandate is the beta launch,
Yeah.
you're going to be like a world of pain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
it's very important that you try these things out within those first early few days, so that you can push back and you can say that, okay, these are the things that we need to fix first before we can proceed on these certain items within the mandate. So which is where operational readiness will have to be like a lot more I think well rounded, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Hmm.
uh, One scenario which I think is also worth mentioning here, I talked about like a walking tour. Uh, Now let's also cover one scenario wherein a lot of pre-seed companies, or even seed stage companies for that matter, are like less than 10-15 people. Okay, so there
Correct.
is one
Yeah.
founder and then like nine engineers, tech
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
so to speak. So there is no sales team, there is no product team separately. The founder is that one jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
that case, your founder becomes that one person who's going to be, I think, your source of information for pretty much everything. So
Everything.
then
Yeah.
in that case, you really need to go dig deep with them. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think one thing which starts off is you also need to be very upfront with them that a lot of founders will also be very open to sharing information, but there are times like, okay, like, do I really need to sit and we need to like have 3 meetings in the first week,
Yeah.
1 hour each, 2 hours each.
Yeah.
What's the point, this that, but you really need to get the context from them. uh, and it could look very different, right? I think you could start from the business context, you could start
Hmm.
with the sales conversations that they've had. Do they have like any target list in mind? If they don't, then can we build one? What geographies are they focusing on? uh, Normally a lot of folks, like a lot of early stage founders, will give very high level sort of a goal. Okay, our revenue is goal is this much, and we want to achieve this much by Q3 Q4, this that. That's about it.
Correct.
But you need to
Yeah.
dig deeper into where those numbers should be coming from, and you need like a starting point. So you can't it's better to just dig deep into those aspects with them
Yeah.
right in the early days,
Hmm.
and be very intentional about getting as much information, as much context as you can within those early days. And you'll also notice one thing with, especially within those first few weeks, people
Hmm.
are also a lot more open to kind of telling you things,
Yeah.
also share, because they're like, they also understand this person is new, they're trying to develop context. Like maybe after that it becomes a, okay, why can't they figure it out themselves?
Yeah.
uh, that could also be the case. But long and short of it, go
Hmm.
speak with everyone, start from there, and then kind of lead with things from that point on.
Right. A lot to unpack here, Mita. This was, I think, a brilliant answer and a couple of really tangible points that I think our listeners can execute. I would really love to unpack it one by one. But first and foremost, something very interesting you mentioned for me in the walkable tour part is, sort of marketing being this tissue that connects all the other departments, right? So, and this is something while talking to my fellow marketers is something that I've heard a lot of times. I would love to know your opinion. Is that founders quite often believe that marketing can sort of compensate for a weak product market fit, right? And when you encounter a situation like that, where you said that, they often think that the product is ready to go to beta launching and the users will love it, but you don't really know that. So, when you encounter a situation like that, when you're testing the product, do you try to solve it through marketing execution, like what they believe for you to compensate with, or do you step into product strategy itself? Like, how do you deal with situations like this?
You must have read this already, you must have heard people say this already. No amount of marketing can fix a bad product,
Yeah,
and that exists for a very good reason. uh, I think a better way, and I would like to reframe this, is I don't think it's marketing's job in early days to fix a lack of PMF. The main
correct,
job here to validate the hypothesis you have around PMF. And that
right,
validation could lead you to a yes or it could lead you to a no. And both are very valuable outcomes. A
right,
no is also just as important, because a no tells you that maybe it's time for a pivot, or
right,
maybe need to be going after a different ICP, or
right,
maybe there is a completely different wedge in market altogether that you should be targeting.
right,
So it's a very valuable outcome over there. So I
yeah,
think the way I think of it is, the role of marketing is to bring in data and insights, and then product gets to decide what to do with them.
right,
But it's not going to fix the lack of PMF. It's going to help you kind of understand and validate whatever hypothesis that you have. Like, that's, I think that's the core of it.
right.
Now the second part of it might also be like, what might this look like in practice? So
Hmm.
this is like not a marketing problem, this is like a PMF problem. So maybe the messaging that you're testing is resonating, so your emails are getting opened, people are clicking, people are showing up, but then they're not converting, or if they
Right,
convert, they're churning out very quickly. So
right,
it's probably not an issue with your messaging per se, but maybe the product is not delivering on what was promised.
correct. So that is where
So
product and marketing need to speak together.
exactly, and when you see that pattern, like marketing is not going to fix it. You will have to actually go and have like a product level fix, and then you kind of marketing will have to make sure that it's being communicated in the right way,
Right,
right? There might also be situations where there is good top of the funnel activity, so you have demos coming in, you have open rates, and everything is like, well, all your metrics are like up, they're all like
right,
green signals, so to speak. uh, the team is very excited too, but then like after demo you see things are like kind of falling apart. uh,
right.
there is no conversion happening. Then again you will also have to think of this angle that maybe there is interest for this
Hmm.
particular within this market, but maybe that product that we have is not closing that gap. And this
Correct.
is very useful information to have as well, which means the
Yeah,
ICP that you're going after is right, but the
Hmm.
product kind of needs to maybe catch up over there,
Correct.
uh, more aligned with the market needs. So
Right.
I think that's also kind of a thing that you have to kind of figure out. I
Right.
think the worst, I think the most difficult thing that you might have to do as a marketer might be that you have to go to founder and maybe say to them that maybe we should pause on scaling marketing and then fix this whole product related issues first.
Correct.
It's not going to be an easy conversation or a comfortable one, but when you are under pressure to show results, I think it's also a very important thing or a very ethical and valuable thing that you do as a marketing leader is to
Right.
just call that out very clearly, rather than just keep, you keep on spending and optimizing a very leaky sort of foundation and situation.
Yeah.
So bottom line is we're all kind of trying to work in sync, like marketing and product, but you need to have like a good enough product, and you need
Yeah.
to be going after the right kind of ICP and whatever wedge to make sure that we are all achieving those goals. So
Right.
again, kind of sum it up, it's not marketing's job to fix a lack of PMF, but to bring back those insights from the market into the product sort of a conversation,
Yeah.
point out the gaps if there are any so that those could be fixed, but validate whatever hypothesis the team would have around
Right.
the product, around the market. That's the key job of marketing.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense. Just to dive a little bit deeper on that, and it might be a very massive question I'm asking you here, but how does one have a conversation like that?
I think the best way to go about it is go with evidence, go with data, and not
Yeah.
just go with this is my gut instinct. Uh, so first and foremost, I think it starts with make firstly how much of a time duration you've given to this,
Yeah.
then how much time, effort, money, channels you've spent testing, what was the messaging being tested, what was the feedback that was collected, sitting together making sense of all of it. And this is not something which you will do in isolation, you will work with other teams
Correct.
to do that as well. This is a conversation which doesn't just affect marketing and product, there is sales involved,
Correct.
there are founders.
Yeah.
So when you start going through things one by one and you start having very honest uh, conversation about it,
Hmm.
ideally with a decent team, it's easier. It's not
Yeah.
going to be fun ever,
Yeah.
but it's still easier to kind of understand, okay, these are the places where we might have gaps.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, I think one thing which I saw with someone I worked with was they were more of a service who had
Hmm.
transitioned into SaaS kind of a platform.
Right.
And one thing we realized is the SaaS platform was there in play even earlier, but it
Right.
was being used internally and not by the end user.
Right.
The end user was kind of getting on just fine without the platform, but it
Yeah.
would make things very easy for them. But one thing we were realizing is people don't really care about this. Our customers don't care about this. For them, as
True.
long as that work gets done, I mean, all they were doing earlier is like place a call, tell them, this is what we want to do,
Yeah.
and that was happening. So for
Yeah.
them to code, log into product, like log into the platform, then create that particular this thing, then check email for the updates that they will get, which was otherwise earlier happening via WhatsApp,
Yeah.
was just something they were not interested in.
Interested in. Yeah.
Which kind of brings us as a team at a very difficult conversation,
Yeah.
that if your customers are really not keen on
Hmm.
doing this, then what is it that you could do
Yeah.
with the platform that you've built?
Yeah.
So we thought we were going to do like a pivot,
Hmm.
and we found like one wedge in the market where this was going to be supremely valuable. So the platform captured the entire process from end to end for a
Hmm.
very specific and a very niche sort of a field. I don't want to get into it because of
Yeah.
privacy concerns,
Yeah.
but what happened with that is we were still servicing the same set of customers, but
Hmm.
the ICP who was going to be paying for it, the decision makers completely changed. And for
Right.
them, that information was very important. And they
Right.
would be more than happy to pay a premium for it. So the
Right.
initial conversations wherein we had with these new set of, ICP, uh, when they were shown the platform, when they were kind of when we shared this concept with them, when they went through the first set of product, the sales deck and everything, they were excited about this,
Right.
which is what we spent a significant amount of time trying to get
Yeah.
the whole thing to work. Didn't work, but then that's the beauty of working at early stage, right? You may
Yeah.
start off with product, but you would land up with something completely different by the end of it.
Correct.
All products go undergo a lot of evolution, right?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
see something is not working out, then you have to pivot.
Correct.
So that's the thing. You have to collect data. You have to get feedback from the customers. You have to even align internally within the team, and then come to that conclusion. Okay, this is working, not working. Maybe it's time to
Right.
move on.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. I think that is quite insightful and helpful for, I think, newer marketers who are trying to figure out, sort of how to have this conversation. Um, Doubling down, I think this is one of the examples that you even gave when we were speaking about the first question. But all of these functions also sort of connect to channels, right? Primarily, as being marketers, we care a lot about channels, this channel, that channel. The conversation is sort of straying away from that now, where people are actually, thinking about what channels to invest in rather than going all wide. But, oftentimes it happens that your founder will see something on LinkedIn, a stack that worked for another founder, and they'll come up to you and be like, hey, company X is, really killing it on TikTok, and this is how they scaled, and I sent you a deck, so we should do TikTok as a person with experience in 0 to 1, because at that stage it's quite understandable that your founder would just want to try all avenues to try and win this game, right? Startups are hard. But what is your framework for evaluating that decision, and how do you push back with evidence instead of opinion at that stage?
This is the most common problem for marketers, right?
Yeah,
It could be, I think you can call it shiny object syndrome,
yeah,
grass is greener on the other side syndrome, or comparing
absolutely.
apples and oranges.
Yeah,
Uh, it's just, it's very easy to get frustrated. And we've all been in those shoes wherein we are feeling, I've been hired to do a job. I have done this in a proven fashion, which is why I got hired in first place. And now, I mean, people don't trust my judgment, or people are coming back to me with suggestions which are, I don't know, it's just someone told them is why they're coming, and they're expecting me to activate an entire channel, which takes up a lot of time, effort, and resources that we necessarily don't have.
yeah,
It's very easy to feel cornered and annoyed over there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it's also worthwhile to just take a step back and understand also where the founder is coming from. And
right.
I think you also very rightly pointed it out. But founders talk to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I think like they would be speaking with other founders, operators, uh, people from their investor network. They're constantly in that mission to find more information, more ideas. Uh, they're trying to find more ways which will take the company forward.
yeah,
And nothing wrong with that. They're just trying to do the best for their business. And what
exactly. Yeah,
that also looks like is when another founder kind of goes ahead and tells them, you know what, or TikTok is working out really well for us. That other founder is also giving a very genuine opinion of
yeah,
theirs because it's
yeah,
worked out for them. That
correct.
person might not know the ground realities because they probably have a team running it, or maybe a freelancer or an agency doing it. But
Yeah,
what they see at the end of the day is that channel is working. So which
yeah,
is why they share it with another fellow founder that okay, this is working. So then the founder is like, oh, this is working for them, then why not for us?
yeah,
So it comes, this entire suggestion thing comes in from a good place.
yeah,
And just being cognizant of that fact, recognizing that, makes it easier to have a conversation and not feel very attacked
Correct.
or confronted. I think
Correct.
that's I think ground or the foundation where we have to stand as marketers every single
Yeah.
time. And I think this is a problem which is not going to go away whether you are at year 1 in your career or year 11 or 12 in your career.
Right.
So I think that's the first thing. My approach typically is, don't just say it won't work and move on. Give them
Right.
a very proper data backed, evidence backed explanation as to why that particular channel suggestion is not going to be a fit for your ICP. Give
Right.
them your reason, show them your
Hmm.
reasoning. Don't just give them the conclusion that this is not going to work. I
Yeah.
think it firstly starts with that. There is also a very good framework for this, and this framework came in from a guest on my podcast and newsletter. uh,
Yeah.
the guest's name is Rapti Gupta, and she had this very beautiful, delightful framework for exactly this problem. It's called the 3C filter. Okay.
Okay.
uh, Whenever you're evaluating a channel, you're supposed to do like three questions. The
Okay.
first question is, does this channel match the places where your ICP hangs out? So that's the very
Correct.
first thing that you should be checking. The second thing that you should be checking is this going to be a compounding investment? Meaning, will the returns kind of build over time, or is it going to be very transactional?
Correct.
And the third thing that she mentioned one should be checking is, do you own or control the audience, or not? So
Yeah.
there is significant difference, right, between owned audiences and rented audiences. So your newsletter, your website, these are all owned audiences. So you have control
Correct.
over the experience and the way in which you would reach them, versus something like paid, where you are at the mercy of the algorithm and
Correct.
the
Yeah.
monetization is a tricky place to be in.
Yeah.
So basically, whenever you get suggestions, just running that channel or that suggestion through this filter will give you a very structured argument to present, rather
Yeah.
than saying this is gut feeling. Gut feelings come from years of experience, experiments that have been run, but evidence data backed explanation. Okay.
Correct.
Now there is another scenario here where some founders will say, okay, fair enough, I trust your judgment, and they will drop it. Okay, and that will
Yeah.
be the end of it. You
Hmm.
gave this explanation why this won't work, and they'll be like, okay, fine. But there will be some founders who will be like, regardless, I still want to try it anyway. So that's also going to be a scenario that you're going to face.
Right.
So my 2 cents here is, I go ahead with that suggestion then. So what I
Right.
end up doing, I do run a very small time bound experiment. We define the parameters of it. Okay, we will set up like a time frame. We will agree on what the success will look like for that
Right.
particular experiment. We'll come back with data, and then we will revisit whether we want to continue with this ahead or not.
Right.
Uh, I did something just similar, and I think I shared that with you when we first spoke. So one of my clients kept pushing on LinkedIn company pages. Okay,
Yeah.
not just LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn company pages of all things
Yeah. Yeah.
have not been really effective for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Even more so, I think ever since LinkedIn monetized that particular part of their product.
Yeah.
So every few days I would get like a message, can we post more? Can we maybe use images? Can we maybe do polls? Maybe can we upload this? Maybe we can do that. And I would be getting like a litany of posts being sent as reference posts. Okay.
Yeah.
And I kept explaining earlier that this wouldn't work. This was not going to happen for us because our ICP just doesn't hang out on LinkedIn.
Correct.
But eventually I was like, okay, let's run this for a month. We'll do
Yeah.
everything. We will test this, and we'll come back and we will see what happens. And the founder was like, okay. By the end of the month, what I ended up doing is I pulled up the LinkedIn analytics and presented like two things. Two things, firstly, were fairly obvious. One was the audience that we had on our LinkedIn company page completely mismatched our ICP. Like there
Correct.
was no overlap of any sorts, which meant the message was obviously not landing, and it was landing for the wrong people. So,
Yeah.
and obviously the performance of post was
Not
dismal.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Was not a surprise any which ways.
Yeah.
So when I went back to the founder with that data, then the conversation became like a lot easier. That okay, we definitely don't need to be doing this. We
Yeah.
just should post once or twice a month to show that we are alive as a
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
but not have that expectation of we want to grow followers on LinkedIn by this much, that much, and that to LinkedIn company page. Okay, not even personal,
Yeah.
which I still understand.
Yeah.
So I think that's one way to kind of look at this. And I think one last thing that I would add here is there is also a possibility that the experiment that you're running might work.
Right.
Okay,
Of course. Yeah.
there is there's always a possibility. So
Of
while
course.
your
Yeah.
own experience and previous data might say that okay, uh, this is not going to work, but there is a possibility that it might also work, then in that case your founder's instinct was right, and you
Correct.
also have to be very honest and open-minded enough to accept that because it might happen.
Yeah.
uh, it's actually a good thing as well, because at the end of the day you've just discovered a new channel that works for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, channel is a channel.
Yeah.
As long as you're
Correct.
reaching the right people, I think that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. Be humble and accept. Yeah. Um, Very well put, Mita. While you were speaking about this, I was also actually just thinking about how channels, yes, are one aspect of something that we really need to, drill down on in marketing. But as a one person or like a very small team in the 0 to 1 journey, you usually don't have bigger marketing teams. So, as a small team, is there sort of like a minimum viable marketing and data stack that you insist on before like spending on paid acquisition? Because initially, I think this is something that a lot of marketers go for, and rightfully so, that if you want to generate some buzz initially, people do convince founders to, spend first, and then organic will grow eventually while you're doing all your marketing activities. What is your stand here? Do you believe that acquisition can begin even before like you have an infrastructure in place and you start organic, or do you insist on like some sort of ground level work before you start doing that?
I have a very strong bias for organic first, uh,
Right,
and there is a very and there are reasons for that. Most of the companies that I've worked with have been like pre-seed to Series A.
right,
They were very resource constrained. Their messaging was still being figured out. They did not have the in-house expertise to optimize a paid channel properly.
right,
So my take in that situation always is throwing spend at a situation where uh, you don't have that expertise is just not going to move things in the right way.
right,
Or the whole idea of going after paid is you end up trying to get conversions faster. You try to
right.
capture market demand.
Hmm.
People are already in market to make a purchase or a decision, or
Yeah,
you're trying to your messaging.
correct,
But if you don't have that expertise, it's basically just throwing money and you're burning money while you're still trying to figure things out,
correct,
uh, which in my book I'm not very comfortable with. So
right,
that has been my approach. So, and another thing is, like paid channels, it takes certain amount of time for them to kind of start working. You have to give them like a there is a learning phase, right? uh,
right,
then you have to make sure you're giving it enough time, money, or you're testing enough formats and things like that. And every platform has its own nuances as well. So there
right,
is like a learning curve over there. So the amount of money that you will be putting in is also going to have to reflect that.
correct,
So at least in my observation, there have been few places where companies were willing to put, and in that case I would definitely have gone for it. But otherwise I genuinely like to start with organic first sort of approach. And I think the other reason also is ROI on paid channels, especially right now at this moment, is very difficult to also justify as compared to like a few years ago. The
right.
CPL, CP, everything has gone up a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
So the whole bar that we used to have, this is worth the spend is
Yeah.
actually just like higher than what it used to be.
Yeah.
So it makes it very tricky for you if you're in a very resource constrained environment, because you'll
Hmm.
be burning through dollars like anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but that said, I would also say that I'm not categorically against the paid marketing approach. There
Mm-hmm.
are situations in which it makes total sense. So if you want to test your messaging very quickly, then obviously it makes sense. Or if you want to capture the in market demand, people who are actually making a decision right now, no better way to get in front of them very quickly as you could get through like a paid channel. So,
Right.
and then there are also founders who want to scale very fast, and they are also willing to spend like big bucks for it. There are
Correct.
founders who exist like that as well.
Yeah.
So that's fine. You should definitely go for it. But then you'll also have to be ready to kind of optimize fast, learn fast, and justify if things are not working.
Correct.
Uh, I think even before you decide to go paid organic, there are like certain things that you will have to do first, which is
Mm-hmm.
making sure you have a certain amount of foundation. So
Right.
a lot of companies or startups, they don't even have like a properly documented ICP persona. What do they stand for that particular ICP? And it's so important because
Yeah.
every single channel that you go after, organic or paid, it's going to feed into that. So if your message is not going to be consistent, then you're just going to confuse the hell out of customer or the prospect at the end of the day.
Correct.
So I think one thing which I've always insisted on, even before getting started on channels, is like the foundation. If they have done like an ICP doc already, which is very rare, uh,
Yes.
but they've already done that, then just being very clear on if the pain points match, if the value prop that we have, does it match. I think those
Right.
are like the most important things you need to align on, because that sets the foundation for every single thing that you do, be it
Right.
event, be it lead magnets you're putting out, be it maybe a podcast that you're doing. It could be anything. So I think that's the first thing that I would want to start with. And it also becomes easy for you to do tests on a very small scale. So say for instance, if you're very clear, you don't need to do like a massive website revamp as well. You can just create like a one uh, landing page for a specific ICP. You can test message on it, you can
Yeah.
run paid ads. There are different ways in which you can also then optimize and test for the message. So I would say there are places where you should definitely be using. If you get an opportunity, the budgets are there, then go in for it. uh,
Yeah.
Try and you need basically any tool that you get to deliver results fast,
Yeah.
and in a fashion which is not going to blow up the company, because
Yeah.
there have been scenarios wherein companies have burned through money on paid just to get like one lead a month. Heard those
Yeah.
scenarios. It's shit scary. Just
Yeah.
to get that call, one demo, they burn through so much money.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't like to put companies through that. So
Yeah.
again, just aligning on the pace and the
Yeah.
flexibility. Also having that conversation that if we are trying to do paid, we will have to also have maybe these many spends on each channel per month. Are they
Yeah.
okay with that? Or are they going to be okay? Organic is going to be slower, but
Hmm.
it will also be a little more sustainable.
Right.
Also, the learning curves, everything. And I think
Yeah.
one thing which a lot of founders also underestimate, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it takes time for the paid channels also to give you some sort of signals. Okay,
Right.
like a Facebook ad campaign will require some amount of time to get out of that learning phase.
Yeah.
Your LinkedIn ads will have a very different burn rate as compared to your X or TikTok ads, maybe.
Yeah.
The audience warm up will differ. So if you don't factor that in, and if you
Yeah.
pull the plug very early,
Yeah.
you you were just going to say that okay, this didn't work, but maybe you did not give it enough time to kind of work. Uh,
Correct.
that's, I think, one thing to be cognizant of as well when you're working with paid. I think overall, I would say uh, my approach has always been lead with organic first, build the foundations because they feed into everything that you do. And in terms of channels, I think it depends very heavily on what kind of ICP you're going after. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to say go SEO first or go LinkedIn first, because it's going to look different for different companies. So, say
Yeah.
for instance, I was speaking with someone recently, and they are into a very niche sort of. They're into environmental. They have a SaaS platform for some environmental surveys.
Okay.
Extremely niche.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so for them, the channels are going to look very different. We don't know. The universe is also a lot smaller for them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Versus, so mainline SaaS, as I would call it, may have certain channels which will work very consistently.
Yeah.
But if you kind of venture into slightly more offbeat places, which are
Yeah.
extremely niche, specialized, channels look very different there. So I'm not
Correct.
going to ever say that these are the channels that work. I would
Yeah.
always say, look at your ICP first, and to make things easier for your client or for your company, maybe lead with an organic first. But if you get
Right.
money, go for paid. No one's
Yeah.
stopping you.
Absolutely. Um, uh, I got a lot of sense of ownership and accountability from the conversation we just had, and I sort of have a interesting question for you here. Is that sometimes what ends up happening is that if you're a marketing leader who owns the revenue numbers, but you don't really oversee sales, there's a sales team in place and you don't really oversee them. How do you protect your like marketing's function, like its performance and accountability in front of founders? Because the line between MQLs and SQLs and what is what gets kind of blurry in smaller teams where like people are, fighting over leads. So how do you sort of, justify marketing's performance and accountability there?
In an ideal world, ideally it shouldn't even come to this. But
Yeah,
again, like I said, in an ideal world, so you would probably have like a senior marketing leader, maybe a VP or a CMO, or maybe even a director who will
yeah,
align the leadership team on, why the direct revenue number is not going to make sense for marketing team to own, because they're not going to be present at every touch point in the sales process. They're not
yeah,
doing demos. They're not doing sandbox. They're not having like that seventh, eighth follow up call with
yeah,
the prospect or maybe some other decision makers in that company. So, to ask marketing to own a number that depends on a process where they have no control is
yeah,
actually a very flawed setup. But, like I said, we live in a very unfair world. Uh, Also, I think the complexity and the nuances increase, especially in a B2B context. If you are selling mid market or enterprise,
yeah,
your sales cycle is going to be very long.
yeah,
Your one marketing touch point is not going to make any difference. There are
correct.
going to be multiple touch points which will be needed to like close a deal.
Yeah,
So the role of marketing in that scenario is always going to be to influence the journey, but not
yeah,
it's not going to be complete it alone. It's just not going to be
correct,
possible. Uh,
correct.
so a better way for a marketing or a better number for a marketing team to own would always be marketing influenced pipeline.
Okay,
Not just what gets closed, but what marketing touched along the way and
right.
helped move forward.
Yeah,
Uh, but again, ideal world, uh, unfair circumstances, and things like that. But say, for instance, you're not really fortunate enough to kind of, be in that scenario, and you're
right.
still owning a revenue number, and you kind of need to protect your own performance, your team's performance. I think there are a few things which could still be done. The
Mhm.
first thing to do would be to establish like a SLA with there should be an SLA between marketing and sales, like a sales level agreement. So
Right,
you actually have a sit down chat with sales and founders and whatever leadership, and you actually talk about what does a handover look like. So at what point does marketing say this lead is ready, it's an MQL from our end? At what point does the sales say this is SQL?
right,
Then what is sales team going to do uh, once they receive that lead from marketing? What criteria even makes like an SQL? So
right.
if you don't really define these parameters, put it in writing, you're going to end up in a situation at the end of the quarter wherein you say we sent 50 leads, and the sales is going to be like, those weren't real leads. uh,
Correct. Forever battle between sales and marketing.
exactly, and you're going
Yeah.
to be left squabbling. And I think it's when you start off at this level, at least in the teams that I've worked with in the past, I've seen it solves alignment problems to certain extent. It
Right.
definitely does. Because if everyone is clear on what makes a good SQL, because at the end of the day, we are all playing for the same team, right? We are
Correct.
all playing for the same goal, which is we
Correct.
want to close, we want to get to that revenue number. So if we are very clear on what makes sales team love that lead, and the thing is, if sales team is getting those very genuinely qualified SQLs, they're going
Yeah.
to love you. They're
Correct.
going to be after you all the time. They'll be like, please do whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, do more of it. We love it. Because
Correct.
at the end of the day, it kind of takes the pressure off as well. And they are not spending time validating null, horrible leads.
Yeah.
So it kind of establishes a trust, and you kind of work better together. So it first starts with like a SLA. I think the
Correct.
next thing that you should be doing is agree upon like an attribution model. So what is it that is going to count as marketing sourced deal? What would be like a sales sourced deal? So, and you have this conversation early on with the
Mm-hmm.
sales and the leadership team, not once like the quarter is over and you're squabbling over we sent 50, you sent
Correct.
zero, didn't
Yeah.
worked. Uh, so it kind of needs to start from there. Uh, I'll again point back to one resource and I'll send that link to you later. This gem comes in from Rapti.
Okay.
She shared this very great framework for ROI. It's called Pipeline Minus One Framework, wherein you
Okay.
track five. I'm not going to get into those. I think they're pretty well captured in that other resource, but it's like I'll very quickly say what five things it covers. It covers brand search volume, it
Mm-hmm.
covers demo to meeting rate, it covers website engagement time, MQL to SQL velocity rate, and percentage of inbound influenced pipeline. So
Okay.
the best alternative you have uh, in lieu of owning a revenue number. So this is still showing that you made an impact. It's still showing that you did the work, which is kind of connected to the North Star of the company,
Yeah.
but without really, owning like you're
Right.
going to be safe. You're still
Right.
going to be safe in that review meeting.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good practical way of kind of looking after, you know, uh, an attribution model. So I think I'll send that over after we're done with this. And the third one is have like a shared dashboard. So a lot of times the sales team has one tracker, marketing team has one tracker, the founder has a third tracker, and
Yeah.
they're all sitting in different places. Create one single shared source of truth, and it
Right.
could be on your CRM, a Google Sheet, or maybe a Looker Studio, but everyone should be looking at the same numbers at the
Right.
same time and in that one place. So when you
Right.
have like a single source of truth, it's easier to see that you are aligned or not as well, because
Yeah.
you might be having those conversations in silos with your own teams, but
Mm-hmm.
when you start seeing those numbers and and you have a SLA and attribution model in place, uh, the ambiguity, the confusion, the silos kind of disappear. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't you kind of see things, and you don't have to argue at the end of the quarter to see the numbers. You
Right.
already have visibility right from the first moment that you're kind of working on a deal. So
Yeah.
it's when you document it, it's visible, it's easy for everyone to kind of understand where we all stand, so to speak.
Correct.
And I think one final thing that I would mention here is, and it's sort of underrated, and but it's very important that you kind of educate the leadership on how marketing actually works.
Right.
Most founders, most leaders, unless they come from a marketing background, don't really understand marketing. They're not experts, they hired you for a reason.
Right.
uh, yeah, so for them it makes sense to give everyone like same KPIs, but it's your job to tell them that the revenue number, yes, it's the North Star metric, but it's not going to tell you the entirety of the story of what marketing does and owns behind the
Correct.
picture.
Yeah.
A lot that you do. So it's your job to always explain, to educate, and it will also help you kind of defend your performance, the team's performance better when you're having those conversations. I think education is one piece which is like an unsaid KPI that you're going to have on your list of KPIs. It's
Yeah.
one that you keep to yourself. People rarely understand, even other teams, they rarely understand what marketing does. The perception is,
Yeah.
oh, they are just, glam. Uh, I wouldn't say glamorous as well, but just people who post, the people who send email campaigns, they talk a lot, they
Yeah.
make beautiful texts. Unfortunately, but the kind of intentionality that goes behind this and
Yeah.
the value of it, I don't think it registers for a lot of people. So it's
Yeah.
always going to be one thing that you do is to educate others how you work and why you do the things that you do, and why the metrics or whatever lens they have at looking at your work probably need to be updated and revisited.
Right. Right. Coming to my last question, before we move into the rapid fire round, which is my favorite round, is that a lot of people, especially in the 0 to 1 journey, like it's similar to when I also joined this company, is what ends up happening is a lot of operators focus too much on building the right foundation, and it sort of slows down your company and the company's growth, right? So some people believe that building too much is slowing your company down. Others believe that lack of structure will create a chaos. What is a good balance here? Like, what should early stage marketers in like a marketers in early stage companies sort of what sort of balance should they look forward to when they join a new company like this?
My take on this has been, the leaner you keep your setup in early days, especially at an early stage, not even early days,
Yeah,
the better it is. Speed is always going to be your friend. So
yeah,
the fastest way to kill your momentum is going to is making your team jump through multiple hoops before anything really gets out of the door.
yeah,
That's the worst to kind of go about things. uh, if you are in that 0 to 1 sort of a phase, you definitely need some semblance of a process, but you don't need
right,
like a sophisticated process. So
yeah,
what you need to do is you just need to know, you need to have people know who owns what, when
hmm,
things are supposed to be going out or when things are due, and who is going to be approving or what needs to be approved before anything
correct,
goes live.
yeah,
Checks. That's it. You don't need like a multiple step workflow for sending out like an email campaign or a newsletter. You just don't need that.
yeah,
uh, mm, the way in which I have always done things in the fastest way in my experience has been a Google Sheet.
mm-hmm,
Seriously, underrated. Just create a
yeah,
tracker, share it with your stakeholders, put timelines in, assign the owners, uh, and a well maintained Google Sheet is just going to tide you through things.
yeah,
It has zero adoption curve. It gives everyone a single view into what's happening, and you more or less will get through whatever initiatives, ops that you're managing. That should be
yeah,
more than enough. But
yeah,
there is also a scenario like there are going to be times when you're going to outgrow that, and you'll
hmm,
know when you have outgrown the Google Sheets. At
yeah,
that point of time, a good idea to do would probably be maybe move to something like Trello, or maybe I think even a software that you guys have, something like
yeah,
5 Date. Or I have not personally checked it out, but
yeah,
my understanding it's a project management software,
yeah,
on similar lines like Trello. So I
yeah,
think that's the next piece which comes in. Uh,
yeah,
and I've used Trello in places where the complexity has increased. So,
right,
say for example, this. So, in one of my past roles, I was managing a team where we owned top of the funnel, and when I started off, we had like 3 product lines. I think by the time I left, we had around 6, 7 product lines and counting. So what that meant was we were doing multiple events, we were doing multiple lead magnets, we were putting out. There was distribution for multiple channels, uh, blogs, case studies, n number of things that were happening across each product line. So
Right.
in the beginning, when I joined in, Google Sheet worked fine. We were like, okay, every product line based on whatever is happening gets like a Google Sheet. Uh, all the stakeholders have that single view, and it was okay.
Yeah.
But then, as the complexity grew, the number of product lines got added, the number of things that we were also doing increased. Google Sheet was not cutting it.
Yeah.
It was incredibly, uh, I would say, strenuous and
Yeah.
confusing for us to manage everything through a Google Sheet. So
Right.
at that point in time, we moved on to Trello. So
Yeah.
what we would end up doing is we kept Google Sheets internally for each of the product lines because the stakeholders there kind of were comfortable with it. But
Yeah.
internally for us, so say for instance, for one particular event, we would probably have like uh, multiple channels that had to be activated, things that needed to
Yeah.
happen at channel level. Everything went onto a Trello card on a Trello board. Every product line got its I don't know if it call it column or they call it like board. I'm kind of
Yeah.
fuzzy on the language right now,
Yeah.
but it helped organize things better. Everyone was on one single page internally as a marketing team. Like the three or four of us were kind of very aligned then because we knew like what's exactly happening at what point of time, where do there were places where I would have to step in for an escalation, or there were
Yeah.
times where the juniors would have to take care of things. So it made things very clear. So you need to kind of understand at what time you need to get out of Google Sheets or whatever it is that you're using into like a better, more organized sort of a platform.
Yeah.
And I think one sign that you're probably getting too much or you've done too many things or added too many steps uh, into your ops is probably going to be if your team is spending more time just navigating the process than doing the actual work. Then
Right.
it's a sign that maybe there are way too many steps.
Yeah.
People are spending too much time jumping through those loops than just putting things out as they should
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So you kind of cut back on things. But I think it depends on the workload that you have. It depends on how many teams that you are interfacing with. So
Mm-hmm.
I will also call out one more distinction here. So when the work is entirely within like your marketing team, if you're like a team of 2 to 3, if you're like more than one people, then
Yeah.
you can keep things very lean and simple as possible.
Yeah.
But the moment you are working with teams across the company, so maybe you're working with product, you're working with
Yeah.
engineering, you're working with sales, you're working with maybe even CS if you're kind of responsible for user initiatives too.
Yeah.
So in that case, you will need like a slightly more formal and well thought out process. I
Correct.
would never say something very elaborate, but something which is documented,
Yeah.
so that people know exactly what needs to happen when and
Yeah.
why. Uh,
Yeah.
and maybe a shared meeting of sorts wherein you just align on it and
Yeah.
maybe give them like a Miro board or maybe an email which will just capture the workflow, or maybe just like a simple Google Sheet
Yeah.
as well. Because the challenge is if people are not clear on what needs to happen when, say, you're doing a product launch and the tech team is not clear on when the landing pages need to be ready, uh,
Yeah.
product is not clear on what features need to be live by the time the launch happens
Yeah.
and at what stage, then you're going to be in a world of pain.
Correct.
So I think then the things will start like falling apart. So you just need to spend a little time getting everyone aligned on like a single, I think, source of, maybe I've used that term too much, single source of truth, but maybe just spend 10 minutes just aligning people at the start of the project or midway through the project, check in and just make sure that this is the place where you will find all the updates. Make sure
Yeah.
to follow it. And you
Yeah.
also know what place and what part you come in. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that was incredibly helpful. And I do definitely think that over engineering is a trap that we sometimes tend to fall into without, really realizing that real work's not really happening or moving it forward. And the time spent to work done ratio is way off sometimes. So that really helps. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mita. All right, Mita. So are you ready for my favorite round of this conversation, which is the rapid fire round? I'll just keep it very brief and you have to instinctively tell me the answers. Perfect. My first question to you is, what is the most annoying metric that you've ever reported?
Undoubtedly, the LinkedIn followers or any sort of follower count on any social media platform, especially as a B2B marketer.
Right.
I think
Why?
because it's such a vanity metric.
Yeah.
Uh, when you're early stage, yes, there is top of the funnel awareness and everything, but it's not going to make a huge difference in your life tracking that number religiously. And just then, asking like, why is this growth just maybe 5% month on month? Why is
Yeah.
this not 100% month
Does
on
not
month?
matter.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as someone who will have, I mean, it's important for awareness, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's not going to be that one place where I will allocate all of my energies to drive results until and unless I see that it's giving some traction. If it's
Correct.
personal branding kind of a thing for executives thing, then it's a different story. But
Yeah.
company pages or sort of company brand handles, I think it's not what it used to be, and it's just a vanity metric.
Okay. My second question to you is, what is the buzzword that you would ban from every pitch deck? Pitch deck. I think a lot of marketers have these. I would love to know yours.
I just said this yesterday to my founder. Uh, we are in the process of revamping like parts of the website. Okay, let me tell you the words first. It's powering and it's unlock.
I hate
And
them. I
fun
hate
fact,
them.
one of these is still there on the website, and I can't do much about it.
Yep. Yep.
I think those two words, no, they say it's like those are pretentious words. They don't
Yeah.
actually add a lot of meaning
Yeah.
to it, just there to kind of fill place, to kind
Correct.
of solve for the word count, or fill that place in that banner or that header section so that it doesn't look khali. I
Yeah.
feel like it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's just sort of not adding anything. Like, what do you mean? Unlocking what? Powerful what? What do you mean? You don't mean anything by using those words. I agree with you here.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
those words are, no, I mean, and still I can't win some battles. Okay.
you win some, you lose some. But Mita, this has been a very honest look at what it really takes to build traction from nothing and what judgment call sort of marketers or operators have to make when there's no playbook in the beginning. Thank you so much for sharing your thinking, your experience. I know a lot of founders and operators who will be listening to this will recognize themselves in our conversation. And for everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to follow Structured Mess so you don't miss out on our further conversations, where we talk about realities behind building and scaling marketing teams. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.